September was a pretty good month for collecting. I've been on a little bit of a selling stuff binge. Every so often, you look at your collection and you go, I don't really need that anymore. It's cool to have when you initially wanted it, but maybe not so much anymore. So, past few weeks, I've been selling some games, but that just means that I sell some games to make room for some more. Interests change over time, so stuff you might have been interested in collecting, a few years ago, not as interested in now. That kind of thing happens, but so it gave me the chance to buy some more games. So, without further ado, let's just dive right into games. We got a whole bunch of different things this time. So, what we're going to do this time around is go from earliest games to newer games. Normally, we like to go back in time a little bit, but there's a reason why we'll end with the Switch in this episode. You'll see why. But let's get right into it. So first thing I got is Sesame Street Twin Pack with Elmo's Letter Adventure and Elmo's Number Journey. So let me explain here. So first of all, I grew up watching Sesame Street. I remember loving Sesame Street. I had a VHS that I probably watched 100 times. No idea where that VHS is now, but I remember watching Sesame Street a lot when I was growing up. And during collecting, I was like, oh, I'm going to go and get some Sesame Street games because I had it growing up. Very typical thing to fall into where you buy things for shows you liked growing up, even though the games mean absolutely nothing. So I did that for Sesame Street. And during that, I got the PS1 games of both of these, which were also released on Nintendo 64. I ended up selling those at some point in the past because I'm like, I really don't need these, but I will never ever in my life forget how poor quality those games were. I understand PS1, 90s, not at all the graphics that they are today, but when I tell you that it was the most bizarre looking stuff ever, I mean that, and it's like almost funny to me. So I got rid of them because I didn't really need them, but I was like, I gotta have some kind of memory of having those really, really poor quality games. I say poor quality, right? Not modern quality games anymore. And that's how I got to this thing. Now, this thing is a little weird because there was a line of PlayStation 1 releases that were collector's editions. So collector's editions, what we consider today is just like the game, and then it's got a whole bunch of like knickknacks that come with it. But collector's editions then were just groups of games that were released together. I have two on the shelf, two Disney ones on the shelf that are, one is like Disney, just regular Disney collector's edition, and another one is a collector's edition for Disney action games. So it would be an opportunity that if you didn't have any of these games, you could get 3 of them all at once. My guess is they were kind of like a budget release, maybe kind of like what we'd consider greatest hits nowadays. But they're very hard to come across. There's some for some very popular series, like there's a Grand Theft Auto one, there's a Crash Bandicoot one, I know there's a Call of Duty one, there's a sports game one, but they all came in these white label collectors, like sleeves, kind of, and they're really hard to find. I remember the first time I ever came across it, the first time I ever saw one was at Too Many Games. I think my first Too Many Games in 2022, maybe if not 2022, 2023. So very, very obscure PlayStation 1 releases that if you're a PS1 collector, you probably know all about them, but I knew nothing about them. So I got the first one, one of the Disney ones for like 50, and then I ended up finding the other one on eBay probably for around 50. It's probably in some previous months in review video, but I went back and like looked at them on eBay, and there are none that are open. All of them are sealed. So very hard to come across. This one, not nearly as hard to come across. This is not nearly as expensive, not nearly as wanted, but it is kind of cool to get it to go along with like these games that I do and don't want at the same time because I can't forget about them, but also a cool way to get them because even though this is a collector's edition, it's a twin pack, still white label, still very interesting, still kind of obscure. So this is a neat little thing to add to the collection. And so, from PS1, you think we go into like some early 2000s stuff, but no, we're going to jump right into the 2010s with a 3DS game that I now have. So I didn't get my first 3DS until this past April, and I am like on a quest to get a whole bunch of 3DS games that I didn't have growing up, but also just, I never had 3DS games. I never had a 3DS, minus some Japanese games. So it goes along with 3DS games that I wanted to buy. This one is one I definitely want because I have it on Wii U. This is Ultimate NES Remix. Now, I mentioned this either in July in review, it was summer in review, and I got the Nintendo World Championships new Switch game in North American Switch and Japanese Switch, and I mentioned that it's kind of like Ultimate NES Remix from a few years ago. Well, this is what it is. So the World Championships games are kind of like challenges, like speedrun challenges kind of, and Ultimate NES Remix kind of, I don't want to say did it first because Nintendo World Championships in the 90s came first, but like the first time it was very mainstream and very popular to the public would be Ultimate NES Remix. So 3DS game. I believe they were released in two waves. There was like a pack 1 and a pack 2 that were released on 3DS and Wii U eShops, and then it came to physical on 3DS and on Wii U. So this is the 3DS version, obviously. I've had the Wii U version for a really long time. I don't remember when I got it. Probably when I got it a Wii U. But now I have the 3DS version, which is cool. It goes along with the Nintendo World Championship stuff. I now have both Ultimate NES remixes on 3DS and Wii U. But that's not where it stops, because I also got Famicom Remix, the Japanese equivalent to Ultimate NES Remix. Naturally just buying Japanese games. And this will be a good opportunity to say that I'm going to start putting Japanese games that I buy in months in review videos. A little over a year ago, I started a series called Nihon no Konyo Henshokai of me just showing off Japanese games that I got and putting them into videos of like, here's all the Famicom games I got, here's all the Super Famicom games I got. And I talked a lot about them, but those videos became very time consuming to research. So I put a stop on that like in either early October or late September. And I just kept buying Japanese games, but just didn't make videos about them. So I think the list of games that I had to talk about got to like 400. So I'm just going to start making videos just talking about them, not so much, doing full research about the story of the game, for better or for worse. But instead of just letting that list get longer and longer, if I buy a Japanese game now, I'll start putting it in like months in review. So Famicom Remix to go along with Ultimate NES Remix. So you think that's where that ends. It doesn't, because I also got Famicom Remix on the Wii U. So now I have all four NES/Famicom remixes. Like I said, I had the North American Wii U release for a while. Never got the 3DS one because I didn't have a 3DS. But I got the 3DS one. Then I got the Japanese Famicom remix. And now I have the Japanese Wii U Famicom remix. So I now have all four of them. But that's a good opportunity to go into now Wii U. So post 3DS, or not post 3DS, a little after 3DS's release came the Wii U. So we have two more Japanese Wii U games that these were actually all in a bundle, Famicom Remix and these next two. I've been wanting Famicom Remix, I've been wanting this next one, and when I saw a bundle of both for like a really, really good price, I was like, okay, I'm going to get both. So Famicom Remix came with Game & Wario. So Game & Wario, at least here in North America, I believe was a Club Nintendo exclusive, so you couldn't just go buy it on the shelves. I think. I could be wrong. I think it was Club Nintendo exclusive, so it's very expensive here in North America, but in Japan, not that expensive. Just buying Japanese versions of games that I already have. It's a curse. But I got my North American copy at Retro Game Con 2 years ago, I think 2022? Yeah, I think Retro Game Con 2022. A guy had it with printed artwork, so I bought it, and then I bought real artwork for it. So now I have Game & Wario both on North America and Japan Wii U's, even though I don't have a Japanese Wii U to play it. But Game & Wario is kind of along the lines of other like Wario titles, kind of like micro game titles. So there's mini games and then there's micro games where they're just like very quick. Like, for example, the one I played growing up was, what was it called? Oh no, I forgot what the game is called. Oh, WarioWare Smooth Moves on the Wii. That's the one I played, where the challenge would be like, hold your Wii remote and turn it to like, I don't know, unlock something. Like very, very quick games. Like not like Mario Party mini games, like micro games, because they're so short, so small, but your goal is to play them in succession. And Game & Wario is kind of on the same wavelength. It's also kind of like a Wii U gamepad showcase of things you could do, kind of along the lines of like what Nintendo Land was, just showing the things that, the gamepad, why the gamepad was unique and what you could do with the gamepad. Kind of like 1-2 switches is on on the Switch and we play on the Wii. Yeah, just examples of that. So Game & Wario is pretty cool. And speaking of Wii U games that showed what you could do with the gamepad, we have the dual pack of Star Fox Zero and Star Fox Guard. So yes, there are 2 games in here. I also have this in English, but it came with 2 games in the Star Fox franchise, Star Fox Zero and Star Fox Guard. So if I understand correctly, I believe Star Fox Zero is kind of the closest we have to a modern Star Fox experience. So kind of like the next game in like the Star Fox series. But my brother played more Star Fox growing up. I love these combo packs because they are just very unique, very cool, especially for the Wii U era. And it's kind of neat. And Star Fox Guard, going back to what I was saying about like the Wii U gamepad, is you had to watch like the TV and the gamepad, and it's basically like tower defense. So you had to like trigger alarms to like take out enemies that are coming from all these like different screens. So if you're good at managing a lot of different screens at once, like Star Fox Guard was pretty good. It wasn't a really big game, not a super fleshed out game, so it was just bundled with like Star Fox Zero like this. But this was again in the same bundle as Famicom Remix and Game & Wario, so it was cool. Wasn't necessarily looking for this, but it's a still pretty neat piece of Wii U history, I guess. And that's where the Wii U ends. And then the last little bit of things are all Switch releases. So I have 2 orders from Limited Run that I have not yet opened. I believe I got them both in the month of September. One might have came at like the end of August. I don't know. But we're going to open those 2 Limited Run orders. But one more Switch thing I got is, I've never played Legend of Zelda in my entire life. And just this past week, they released a new Legend of Zelda game, kind of like Link's Awakening style, where it's, I don't want to necessarily say 2D, but if you've played Link's Awakening, you kind of know what I mean. But you're playing as Zelda this time. So I think for like one of the first few times, or first time ever in the Legend of Zelda series, you're playing as Zelda instead of Link. And not only did they put out a new game, they also put out a new Switch Lite console. And it's all gold. And it's got a little Hyrule symbol in the corner. I don't know anything like Legend of Zelda, but I saw this pretty gold thing, and I'm like, oh, I have to get that. So I did. Most Switch Lites release at 200. Of course, we're at the end of the Switch's life cycle, but this Switch Lite was 210. But it also comes with a 1-year Switch Online membership. So I currently pay for Switch Online, but if I ever wanted to get Switch Online again, I can just take the subscription from here. So I think normally it's $20, $25 for a full year for an individual plan. But I believe this one comes with like the expansion pack. So it's like the upper echelon, not upper echelon, like higher tier of Switch Online memberships. And so you kind of save money technically, right? If this is $210, normal Switch Lites are $200. So it's $10 more, but you get the subscription. So I don't know. That's not really why I bought it. I bought it because it was gold and it's cool. But yeah, I will still never play Legend of Zelda. I've been selling some of the Legend of Zelda games, but at least now I have the Switch Lite to go along with it. Yeah, my friend just bought the game, the new Legend of Zelda game, but of course I bought the console. Didn't even buy the game. So yeah, just one more Switch thing I got. But like I said, last thing we're going to do for the rest of the video is just open up 2 limited run packages I've gotten in the past month. So I've talked about limited run in the past, but if you are not familiar, limited run is just a limited release company based out of North Carolina. So if Nintendo doesn't necessarily want to release a game physically, limited run could always call up and be like, hey, we'll publish your game physically. So that's what limited run is good for. Kind of expensive. I'm very bad about buying games just because they look cool. I'll be super honest about that. But yeah, I don't know. There's some games I think are neat. So I don't remember what's in these 2. I mean, I got the shipping labels somewhere. I have the confirmation email somewhere, but I don't remember what's in either of them. So I don't really remember a lot to talk about each game. So I'm just going to kind of go along as we see them. But one thing I'm probably going to say quite a few times is, oh, I bought it because it looked cool. Just like the Switch Lite. that I just showed. Same thing with limited run games. Every so often I'll just go on and be like, oh, those games look cool, and then I buy them. So that's a bad habit. Don't do that. Spend your money more wisely than just on limited run nonchalantly. So let's get into this. I have no idea what these games are. That's okay. First one, Strayed Lights. Fight your inner demons and restore your balance. Again, bought it just probably because it looked cool. But I like the purple. It looks kind of cool. Kind of looks like you ever see Moana and the Heart of Tafiti? Oh, Taka. Yeah, the overarching villain in Moana kind of looks like that. Like the black silhouetted sprite, kind of with just eyes and yeah, I don't know. I'm just trying to justify my purchase. Next one is Koromon, which I believe Koromon is kind of like a Pokemon game, kind of like a monster collecting, monster battling, and the back definitely looks like it. That straight up looks like it could have been Ash knocked off. These little monsters look like they could be Pokemon, so I don't think necessarily Koromon is trying to copy it, but I believe very, very heavily inspired by Pokemon. So another game. I think I heard about this before it was released on Switch and before it was announced by Limited Run. I just knew it was a Pokemon spin-off-ish. Not spin-off, but like it's Pokemon inspired. So I guess it came to Limited Run and I was like, oh, I should get that because it's like Pokemon. So Koromon. Next one, what's this one? Super Hydora or Super Hydra, maybe? I don't know. What is this? I can't even see. The back is so dark. I can barely even see what the screenshots are. I don't know. Okay, maybe it's a little bit better in the in the light, but kind of looks like Metroidvania, maybe? I don't know. Kind of like an arcade shooter. More like a shooter, I should say. Actually, yeah, it kind of looks like a side-scrolling shooter where you play as a little ship. Yeah, cool. Super Hydora. I'm probably saying that wrong, but that's how it's spelled. Hydorah, Hydora or Hydra. Next up is Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, the complete edition. So I never played any of the Tycoon games growing up. I know there's several of them. Roller Coaster Tycoon is a big one, apparently released by Atari. I didn't know that part, but I remember seeing them on PC. I think my friends had them. I just didn't. But it's a very interesting release for Limited Run to have, let alone be on Switch in the first place. But Roller Coaster Tycoon, I kind of bundle this in with like Sims. You know, not that they're anything alike, but kind of like early 2000s PC simulation games. Yeah, I kind of put that in like the same file cabinet in my head. So yeah, Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. Next one. Okay, I remember this one. This is the Rose and Camellia collection. So every year, Limited Run does a Limited Run Direct, kind of like Nintendo does their Direct presentations. And I remember seeing this one and thinking like, wow, this looks really, really freaking cool. And I'm trying to remember exactly what this was. Apparently there are multiple Rose and Camellia games. I see Rose and Camellia 1, 2, 3, 4, and versus La Mulana. But I don't remember what kind of games they were, if I'm being super honest with you. I remember seeing it in the Limited Run Direct and I was like, that looks really cool. I gotta get that when it's released. So at least I remembered the name from when it was initially announced. So yeah, Rose and Camellia collection. That was one order. I don't remember what day I ordered that, but yeah, another thing with Limited Run is that their releases take a long time because they do the pre-orders and then physically order the games based on how many pre-orders they had. So yeah, that's so you kind of you wait a long time for some of their releases, but sometimes worth it, sometimes not. I don't know if there's any Limited Run game I've even played. It's just a really bad collecting habit. But anyway, not the point. Next order. Let me just take some of this out. Let me get these games out. Okay, I think last one was 5. This one is 6. Yeah, cool. 6 games in this one, so a little bit more. But this will be it after this opening. So here we go. Pentiment. So Pentiment was in one of the most recent Nintendo Directs. I don't know if it was in the most recent or slightly before, definitely before that. But if I understand this correctly, Pentiment was originally released on Microsoft systems, specifically like the Xbox One, and that's where it got super popular. I had never even heard of it until it was in a Limited Run Direct, in a Nintendo Direct, And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool that, you know, Microsoft games are coming to Nintendo systems. Like that's good for the industry, right? That games are, you know, not necessarily exclusive to one console. I mean, good for the consumer, I guess, but that was interesting to me. And then Limited Run announced that they were handling the physical release for that game, so seemed like an interesting history behind it. So I got it. But another thing about Pentiment is really interesting is, I don't know if you could see it through here, but the art style is like super cool, like super. I don't know if I necessarily want to say like medieval, but like olden age Europe. That's I have no idea if this is gonna work, me showing it, but like kind of right here, kind of looks like stuff you would see if you know, you were drawing, or if an artist was drawing like the Pope in like 1400, like that kind of drawing, that kind of art style is essentially what Pentiment has done in, which to me is very, very unique and very, very cool. So yeah, Pentiment. Next up is Rocket Knight Adventures Resparked. So I remember seeing Rocket Knight when I worked in the game store, and it's, I don't even know what kind of games they are. I think they're just like platformers, but I remember seeing it on Genesis, specifically on Genesis. I don't know if I've ever seen Rocket Knight on any other system ever besides Genesis systems, or not Genesis, the Genesis. But I believe this is a compilation of a whole bunch of games. So I see Rocket Knight Adventures, Rocket Knight Adventures 2, and Sparkster. I guess Sparkster was another Rocket Knight game that I don't necessarily recall. But yeah, it's a little, I don't know what animal he is. It kind of looks like a mouse. Oh wait, hold on. The mightiest mammal ever. Somebody that actually really likes Rocket Knight is watching this right now going, he's obviously this animal, and I'm not 100% sure. But Rocket Knight Adventures, cool. That, you know, a very obscure game franchise or series from, you know, the 90s is coming back in such a way. So next up is Felix the Cat. So if you ever watched old cartoons, you know Felix the Cat. On the back it literally says Universal, like the company Universal Studios. So it's a compilation of Felix the Cat games, and I would buy it just because I'm familiar with Felix the Cat, even though I never like watched it. But I do have a friend who's really, really into Felix the Cat. So every so often he gets a shout out. So Duncan, if you're watching, Felix the Cat is here. I'm sure he bought like the collector's edition of this if it was released. He probably bought every release that Limited Run had. I'm sure he bought like the PS4, PS5 versions. But yeah, Felix the Cat. I'm sure some of you may be a little nostalgic for this. Never watched Felix the Cat, but like I assume the same era as like early Mickey Mouse or Tom and Jerry. That's what I consider in the same realm of Felix the Cat. Maybe like Oswald the Rabbit. Same kind of like animation style and all that. So cool to get the collection. Again, another old game collection coming to Switch, keeping games preserved. Next up is a Colossal Cave, and I don't know what I could say about this one. It looks like pirates and dragons on the back, but I'm really not sure if I'm being super honest. Looks interesting. At least when I buy these games, I try to make sure like the gameplay looks interesting. So yeah, it's another Switch game I'm adding to the collection, but at what cost? Next up is, this is actually a really interesting one. So this is Arzette, the Jewel of Faramore. So in the 90s, Nintendo had a very brief partnership with the company Philips. So Philips was releasing their own game console, the Philips CDI, which at the time, I don't know if it was PlayStation 1, but at the time it was still very uncommon for game systems to be CD-based, right? Nintendo's consoles were NES cartridges and Super Nintendo cartridges and Nintendo 64 cartridges, and then Game Boy Color cartridges. Sega also, you know, Genesis cartridges, and then Genesis cartridges, and then what came after the Genesis? Actually, did Sega jump right to CD after that? I'm drawing a blank. I never had a Sega system growing up. But long story short, when the Philips CDI was released, very uncommon for CD-based games, especially if it was pre-PS1, which it might have been. So Nintendo had a very short partnership where 3 Legend of Zelda games, or 2? Might be 2. 1 or 2 Legend of Zelda games, 2 or 3 Legend of Zelda games were released on the Philips CDI, and just very strange artwork, more like visual novel more than anything, right? We typically consider Legend of Zelda to be very action-based games, and this is more like visual novel, point-and-click type games. but the art style is very, very unique. So I don't know if, again, you're able to see, but like the characters on the sides, I think it's almost like memes now. What CDI games look like. I think they've made a resurgence because they're so obscure and just strange characters. So that art style, kind of like Pentiment, very unique, very what I'm looking for. Everybody thinks it's like the Zelda CDI games. So to get another game in that style is a pretty neat way to so pay homage to those CDI games and all their obscurity. So Arzette. And then one more, last one of the episode, and we'll call it a day. I don't remember. What is this? El Shaddai, or Shaddai, Ascension of the Metatron. Another game that I'm pretty sure was in a limited run direct that I saw and was like, wow, that looks so cool. But I keep learning that I'm never going to play these games. But we're adding it to the collection. But yeah, El Shaddai. I'm probably saying that right. But it says HD remaster, so I don't know what console it was originally released on. It says originally released in 2011, so I'm thinking PS3, maybe Xbox 360. So I'd have to take a quick look at that. But yeah, there's all the limited run games. So yeah, there's one PS1 game, 2 3DS games, 3 Wii U games, and then 11 Switch games and a Switch console here in September. So I know I got a few more games coming soon. May or may not have gone on a little eBay binge not that long ago. So we'll have some more games in October. But otherwise, kind of like what I was saying about Nihon no Konyo Henshokai, the little Japanese series, is that I'm gonna start putting Japanese games in. I have 3 videos I want to make, probably in the nearest future. Specific series that I have bought games for that I was saving for like an official Nihon no Konyo Henshokai episode, but I've gotten more games in those series, so instead of waiting to make one in that style or waiting for the series to come back, just make a video talking about some of the ones that I got. So I'll probably put that title on there anyway, but that's for a few weeks from now. So that's everything I got. I probably got something wrong about a lot of these games. This one was really quick to make. The only one I'm really confident about is like the Elmo game collection or Twin Pack and NES Remix, just because those are pretty well known. But if I said something wrong about Star Fox or Game & Wario or any of these limited run Switch games, please correct me. I want to learn about these games as much as I have hopefully taught you something, or at least told you a story about them. So with that said, bye.